S. Jaishankar said that several countries were nervous about Trump's return, but India wasn't one of them.
So Trump transactional and his predecessor not transactional by inference? I think Americans have always been mercantilist and transactional. Some have said it directly and some couch it behind values and interests and the global good. But we are all Trump. It is very clear that he will do you good if you do him good. So as long as there is an American benefit, he will certainly offer you something in return. And that is not transactional, that is politics. And the Western world has got into the bad habit of flinching on everything. So their flinches should not bother any one of us in Asia. We have our own way of conducting diplomacy, of conducting international relationships. And we don't have to follow the crude. India will process Russian crude and India will supply it to Europe and America. Our largest beneficiaries of Russian oil that flows through India is European Union.
On the side of the Europeans who have criticized India for purchasing their oil.
That's European Union's job, and exactly. I don't want to prevent them from doing what they do best, which is having double standards. Without hypocrisy, European Union would not be European Union. So countries need to stop looking for approval or assessment of others. They need to build their own capabilities and capacities, and I think India in the last 10 years has been focused on that. We are not seeking global appraisal or assessments or acknowledgement. I am someone who with China used to believe that you need to trust but verify. Now I believe even if you are verified, don't trust. So but I am a skeptic. I believe it.
Welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Ian Kavat. Narendra Modi congratulated his, quote, friend Donald Trump on winning his second term as US president. And a few days ago, Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said that several countries were nervous about Trump's return, but India wasn't one of them. So why is India so bullish on Trump? With me to discuss this is Samir Saran, Observer Research Foundation President. Samir Saran, welcome to Taiwan Talks.
Thank you for having me here.
So, S. Jaishankar has said that Modi was among the first 3 calls that Trump received after winning the US election. What's your top-line view on India ties under Trump? Cautious or optimistic?
I think India and US ties have all the ingredients for all of us to be optimistic about, all the time. I think we are at a particular geopolitical moment, a moment of India's economic transition and transformation that would make India an important partner for any US administration. We have done well with Trump 1.0, we have done well with Biden, we have done well with Obama. And there's all reasons for all of us to be optimistic about the potential that can be further realized under the second Trump administration. I'm bullish.
And so why has India managed to have such successful relationships with Washington?
I think intrinsically the India proposition is strong. Big market, a vibrant democracy, a strategically located country at the heart of the most dynamic region of the world. Capabilities and capacities that it has built over the years. It has a fantastic scientific temper, a space program, a military that's competent, a defense industry that's thriving, relationships built over decades that are beginning to pay dividends, and generally a country that allows and engages with everyone, that allows all different sectors to flourish as well as different countries to participate and different groups of people to partake in its story.
Let's go back to Trump and Modi. Are you concerned that Trump and his unpredictability might cause any spanners in the works?
Look, I think Trump brings with him his own brand of politics. And that brand of politics is going to be disruptive. Disruption normally shakes up those who are the incumbents, who are sitting on real estate, who are sitting on power, who are sitting on wealth. It's good for us. For countries that are aspiring for growth, for better lives for their people, for economic gains, for political space, for them disruption is always good. If we do well, if our bureaucracy, if our diplomacy, if our industry, if our thinking class uh, are clever, nimble, agile at this time, the arrival of Trump 2.0 offers a new moment for India. It's good for us.
So you believe that in that transactional bargaining, India can offer a lot. That's the message that I'm getting.
I think it is slightly unfair to call Trump transactional and his predecessor not transactional by inference. I think Americans have always been mercantilist and transactional. Some have said it directly and some couch it behind values and interests and the global good. But we are all transactional. Politics by its very essence is about power, it's about gains, it's about benefits. I think with Trump it is very clear that he will do you good if you do him good. So as long as there is an American benefit, he will certainly offer you something in return, and that is not transactional, that is politics. And everyone has played the same format for many years. Some have hidden it behind niceties. Trump says it on Twitter quite abruptly and abrasively. That's the only difference.
Is there a particular friendship between the two men? Do they share the same worldview? I mean, Trump has called Modi the nicest human being and also a great leader, and he's done a really good job.
I think they certainly share a personal chemistry. It was visible during the first 4 years of Trump. I'm sure that chemistry will continue. But let's be honest here. Both the leaders, Donald Trump and Narendra Modi, are looking at the interests of their countries first. So while they may have a personal chemistry, their own relationship with the land they represent is deeper. And in some sense, both of them are not going to allow their friendship to come in the way of their determination to do better for their people, better for their country, better for the nation. So we should be realistic that yes, they have a personal chemistry, but both of them have a certain project in mind, and both of them are going to do all they can to serve that particular project. Trump, America, and Modi, India.
Let's look back at the first Trump term and see whether it offers us, an expectation for the second term. Essentially, during that term, the US took away India's most preferential trade status, and this was over quite a bitter trade war between the two countries.
Look, what it tells us is that when it comes to trade, and certainly when it comes to tariffs, and certainly when it comes to easy globalization, those days are over for everyone, including India. Now, did that disadvantage India over others? No, it did not. Did it impede our growth? Did it impede our growth plans? No, it did not. And in that sense, I think as long as there is a level playing field, we are not going to be particularly disadvantaged. We will have to adjust, and we'll have to recalibrate, and we'll have to reset some of our plans, which I think by now all of us would already have in anticipation of a possible Trump presidency. And to that extent, we may have to find new pathways, but necessarily not new directions. We'll still be heading in the same place. We will be doing it differently. We'll be doing it with a certain degree of adjustment. Now, what does that first term also offer us? First term also tells you that a grouping like the Quad, which was dormant till 2017, literally came into its own and got a new life simply because of the Trump presidency. So that is also equally true, that while he may have taken certain measures to, in his mind, rebalance trade, and which I think is perhaps unnecessary and should not have been done, and it's not something that I'm going to endorse or support. I think it was uncalled for. On the other hand, he certainly continued and deepened the strategic relationship with India that has thereafter opened many more avenues for us, including the big technology arrangement that came into place during the Biden presidency, and now of course the more ambitious projects that are underway around defense as well. So I think in some sense politics is about managing different interests, and Trump has certain interests. All of them do not align with us, but a large number of them have a great degree of congruence, and let's make the most of those.
And also during the first term, there was the creation of the tri-service Tiger triumph, do you see that there would be even further steps to build or deepen defense relationships between India and the US?
Look, I was just talking to some folks this afternoon in Taiwan, and I said, if you want to watch the India-US relationship directions for the future, watch the defense sector. I think India-US defense partnership is going to take off. It was given the necessary boost by the Biden presidency, and I truly believe that Trump, and under his leadership, we could see a golden age of our defense relationship. It could really be something to watch out for.
And so how would we see that being reflected in India's role within Quad? Would it become more assertive within that grouping?
Look, Quad is a collective, and here we are talking about a bilateral. Now, yes, there is going to be some of it that is going to be played out through the Quad, but right now what I'm really talking about is the bilateral aspect of the defense relationship, which is greater focus on India-based manufacturing, not only for itself but for others in the region and beyond. I'm talking about transfer of technologies. I'm talking about India buying strategic frontline equipment from the US. I'm thinking about something as audacious as America parting with some of its crown jewels that it only offers to the Australians or the English, those jewels being offered to India as well. I'm talking about frontline and strike platforms in the naval domain, in the aviation domain, in the unmanned domain being offered to India. So I think those are the big ticket items that could be possible under the Trump presidency. And to be fair, the journey has begun under the Biden presidency.
Under Biden, when there were shows of Modi's friendship with Vladimir Putin, the US or Washington flinched. I'm thinking of the bear hug between Modi and Putin during the 75th anniversary for NATO. But under Trump, we can say that both Modi and Trump consider Vladimir Putin a friend of sorts. What difference do you think that dynamic makes to global affairs?
No difference. Look, the Western world has got into the bad habit of flinching on everything. So their flinches should not bother any one of us in Asia. We have our own way of conducting diplomacy, of conducting international relationships, and we don't have to follow Western formats. If we have a cultural tradition or even maybe a habit of exchanging hugs and embraces as we meet, like you see in the Middle East and in South Asia.
But I'm talking about the relationship between Modi and Putin. Obviously, for Biden, they try to discourage too much friendship.
I do not believe that's true at all. I think that's a misreading of the situation. I think that is what you would like to believe after reading New York Times. But I think the Americans, the Germans, most of the Western Europeans are actually quite pleased that they have someone like Prime Minister Modi who can actually talk to both sides of the debate. I don't think India's relationship with Russia has ever come in the way of its relationship with the West. They recognize India's deep, strategic and historic relationship with Soviet Union and now Russia, Moscow. They also recognize that India is a valuable Western partner. And this reality, this duality of India has been appreciated. In fact, let me go a step ahead and tell you that I would argue that much of the oil sanctions regime and the energy flows that have resulted post the invasion of Ukraine by Russia have taken into fact that India will acquire Russian crude, India will process Russian crude, and India will supply it to Europe and America. Our largest beneficiaries of Russian oil that flows through India is European Union. So I think there is a de facto acceptance of our relationship with Russia, and there is a by design encouragement or maybe quiet encouragement of that relationship. I don't agree with this Western media discourse on leadership in the West having problems with India's relationship with Russia. To the contrary, they have used it to their advantage when it comes to the energy sector, when it comes to diplomacy, when it comes to India balancing some of the rough edges. We have been an important part of the architecture that has been created post the invasion of Ukraine.
I don't think there's any doubt in that, but there have been double standards on the side of the Europeans who have criticized India for purchasing their oil.
That's the European Union's job, and
Exactly.
I don't want to prevent them from doing what they do best, which is having double standards. Without hypocrisy, European Union would not be European Union. So I don't want to take away their key attribute. They should continue to do what they do, being the European Union and being hypocritical and having double standards. But even their leadership, including the German Chancellor and others, have commended India's role during this particular period.
Yes.
Right.
On the recent visit.
So the European newspapers can freak out, but European leadership actually acknowledges and in many ways respects what we have done for them.
So what I was trying to get round
But
to...
yes, now coming back to your main
my question.
does it change under Trump?
Does it? Yes, because obviously there is a change in the attitude of Trump versus Biden. And what I wanted to ask you is, does it give India not just... it actually gives India a boost in terms of its global standing?
Look, I don't think that election changes either our standing or our relationship with Russia. We will behave as we ought to, based on our interest and our relationships. So we have never factored in an approval.
It's the relationship with Washington that I'm talking about.
Yeah, so exactly, and to that. So does it give a boost to our relationship with Washington?
To your global standing.
Look, again, I don't think global standings are achieved by single incidents or by appraisals of others.
Relationships?
They are based on capabilities and capacities. A $5 trillion economy has a certain global standing. At $10 trillion, it will have a different standing. Similarly, our ability to respond to crises in the region, to help people who are in distress, to offer vaccines to others, to respond to the earthquake in Turkey, to rescue people who are stranded at sea, to intervene in the Red Sea on cases of piracy. Our standing is based on our capacity and capability, not on whether a senator from California likes us more or less. So I think countries need to stop looking for approval or assessment of others. They need to build their own capabilities and capacities, and I think India in the last 10 years has been focused on that. We are not seeking global appraisal or assessments or acknowledgements.
So different administrations in Washington have viewed India as a counterweight to China. Would you agree that it is?
I would agree that they have viewed India as a counterweight to China. Do we see ourselves as a counterweight to China is a different question. And if that is the question, look, to be fair, our most significant partnerships in the world today happen to be with both China and the US. And then you add the European Union and the Middle East. We would have our quad of four most important partners: European Union, the Middle East, China and the US. In some sense, these are the four big partners we have today, both in terms of our economics and trade, as well as in terms of the implications for our national security and stability. Now, we don't see ourselves balancing anyone for anyone else. We see ourselves independently pursuing relationships that serve our particular requirements as a country. For us, it would have been an ideal case had we had a China that would share the benefits of its economic growth with all its neighbors, including us, without changing the politics of the region. Unfortunately for us, China has been belligerent, and Chinese economic expansion has been accompanied by political belligerence. And therefore, we are not trying to balance China for America. We are trying to manage China for our own sake. We have a neighbor who's trying to change the map of our country. Now, if we have to respond to that, it is not for America that we are responding. It is to protect our own borders, for our own territorial integrity. It is to protect our sovereign interests that we respond. Now, if someone else feels that it suits their purpose as well, so be it.
The same, yeah, it can be true in both instances.
It could be true, but it is not for their interest that we respond to China the way we do. We respond to China because we have to. It is our existential requirements as a nation to protect and defend our borders and our people. Right?
Which is the same for every country.
Correct.
So how about the quality of India-China competition? I want to get your view on the border truce that was agreed before the BRICS summit.
Look, unfortunately, I'm someone who, with China, used to believe that you need to trust but verify. Now I believe even if you're verified, don't trust. So, but I am a skeptic. I believe it's early days and we will have to wait. We'll have to see. We've had a few weeks now since that particular arrangement, a couple of weeks or 3 weeks. Some news reports suggest that it's holding up. I think we'll have to give it some time. We have to verify, we have to continue to ensure that both parties are holding up to their ends of the bargain. I'm skeptical. I think over the next 4 to 5 years, we are going to continuously be tested by China on the borders, either on the western sector or on the eastern sector. We will have to be vigilant, we will have to be muscular, we will have to get our politics and security right with China. If we want an economic relationship with China that is beneficial, we will have to add muscles to our political and security weight. So with China, you cannot take anything for granted, and no agreements no agreements are valid. They may decide to change their mind, and that is the reality of dealing with the dragon.
Can you tell me, amongst the Indian people, has there been, since the meeting, the first in 5 years, bilateral meeting between the two leaders, has there been any slight change in sentiment?
No.
Towards the Chinese?
No. I think what happened in 2020 would have made China lose an entire generation of Indians. I don't think the Chinese get it. They should realize that what happened and their behavior thereafter, and of course the virus and the pandemic and the associations thereof would have certainly created a whole generation of Indians who would not have that benign view of China anymore. Leaderships in India are very responsive to young India. Young India constitutes more than half of the country, and they matter. And in that sense, it is difficult for us to undo the damage that was done by Chinese actions. They will have to work hard. They'll have to work harder if they want to undo it.
And we should
amongst
also
the elites, amongst the political elites, amongst the thinking class, yes, they may have been, it may be in a positive tick, but it's still too early.
We should say what happened, which was that 20 Indian soldiers were killed on the border.
Yes, we lost 20 soldiers because the Chinese decided to try and change the map. And then we had deployments of hundreds of thousands of troops, barely 5 meters apart. Both sides, I think, entered into this near conflict for just the whims and wishes of an individual in Beijing who decided that it was time to redesign the world as per his imagination. So I think it was something that is going to take much longer to fix than one meeting or one agreement that took place.
No.
But again, like I said, it's the most consequential relationship because it's undoubtedly India and China are perhaps one of the rare neighbors who are rising simultaneously, who are rising together, who are huge in size and who have global and the world is going to be implicated by their rise. So this relationship requires care and focus. We should not always jump to easy conclusions, either in the positive direction or in the negative.
So Trump has only 4 years as president, obviously because of the 2-term limit. What do you think would be his foreign policy priorities?
I think he has in many ways outlined them in various speeches of his. Peace clearly is one of the, ending those two conflicts is clearly one of those, and it will have significant bearing. I think the Trump presidency will reshape or re-architect the transatlantic partnership this time around. I think the Europeans will have to, in many ways, rethink their place in the world, their contributions to the world. And that could be another big implication of the Trump presidency, the transatlantic partnership. The Indo-Pacific, I think, will continue to see heightened interest by the administration in DC. So I think that is going to see a more continuous enhancement of engagement. But I think for me, if I was a watcher of what's happening in different parts of the world, what happens in Europe would be most consequential. I think if I was a European, I would certainly today be putting my thinking hat on and finding ways of managing the Trump presidency, the demands of the Trump presidency, the defense spending, the possible peace with Russia, the tensions with China. Europe is going to have to rediscover its own role in the world in the future. It may surprise all of us where it decides to go.
So just to end, coming back to the US-India relationship, so some Western analysts believe that the current biggest tension is the US allegation that the Indian government is involved in a murder plot, a foiled one, an unsuccessful one, against an American Sikh separatist in New York. And they've also filed charges against an Indian government employee. How do you think Trump will handle this issue, given his strong nationalism?
Look, I think the matters are now in court, and the politicians have very little to do with it anymore. The case is going to be now taken forward by the legal community on both sides, and let the courts decide. I don't think even Biden allowed this to come in the way of his political and economic and strategic agenda with India. Why will Trump? So in fact, this is at some level, Trump has been critical of terrorist movements and particularly this particular movement during his campaign. So I don't think this issue is that big a deal as some newspapers may make it out to be. These are incidents that happen when big countries protect their interests or prosecute their own interests in at different times. This is an allegation. This is now in court. It has to be taken forward there. And I think the Indian government and the US government are in touch on this matter. That's what newspaper reports suggest, that they've been talking, cooperating, engaging. I don't think we are on different sides on this. We are on the same side. The matter is in court. Let it play out there. This is not going to come in the way of any relationship. I think it's a footnote in the journey we are taking together, the stories we are writing together, and I think that's a story. But more importantly, I think this is an important moment for India to strengthen and in many ways deepen its relationship with East Asia. As I mentioned, it's going to be an area of continuous focus, and therefore I think India-Taiwan relationship is at the cusp of something deeper as well, something enhanced as well, and maybe the Trump presidency could see that implication of new alignments in this part of the world, such as between Taiwan and India.
That's very good to hear. We'll have to end it there.
Thank you for watching. If you found value in this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon. This ensures you don't miss out on future content designed to help you grow and achieve your goals. Your support means a lot and helps us continue sharing